This is Vince Russo's The Brand.
AlternaTV.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of AlternaTV. I am your host, Brandon Stransky. Today, we're going to be something a little different this time. I have a special guest with me today. I have Russo's brand producer, head producer, Jeff Lane with me today. Jeff, how you doing, man?
Doing good, Brandon. I'm a little curious. You trying to drop your ratings by having me on the show? I think the goal would be to raise the ratings, but oh well. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem, man. I was just looking to, get somebody on that's, has done wrestling before, because it has to do with a lot of, today's show has to do a lot about with wrestling, writing, booking, and, I wanted to have somebody on who's done it before. So, and you were I don't want to disrespect Vince by saying you were the best choice to get to. You were the best available choice to get to.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was the only one available, so you make do with what you got, right?
I mean, nothing against you, but between you and Vince, it's like, no offense, it's you and Vince. It's
no offense taken, buddy.
All right, so I want to start it off with a couple of quotes, or a few quotes to kind of set up where we're going with, where I wanted to go with the show today. The first quote is from Woodrow Wilson. He said, "Since I entered politics, I have chiefly had man's views confided to me privately. Some of the biggest men in the U.S. in the field of commerce and manufacture are afraid of somebody, afraid of something. They know that there is a power somewhere, so organized, so subtle, so watchful, so interlocked, so complete, so pervasive that they had better not speak above their breath when they speak in condemnation of it." Moving on to this, I have not been able to prove whether he did or did not say it, but this has been attributed to FDR. This quote is, "Nothing in politics ever happens by accident. If it happens, you can bet it was planned that way." Another quote from an entertainer by the name of Frank Zappa. "Government or politics is the entertainment division of the military-industrial complex." And now, to close it off, is a quote from former Minnesota Governor Jesse Ventura, also a former professional wrestler. This is a bit of a paraphrase. "Politics in America today is identical to pro wrestling, and what I mean by that is in front of the camera and the public, we all hate each other. I'm going to kick my opponent's butt. I'm going to whale him from here to high water and beat the crap out of him. Yet behind the scenes, we are friends going out to dinner. It's all the work. It's showbiz." So basically, everybody's always heard Vince talk about politics and wrestling. Well, today we're going to talk about the wrestling in politics. What we see on TV between left and right, Democrat, Republican, is basically a show. It's like watching both sides are basically owned and paid for by the same people. The same lobbyists pay the same lawmakers, whether it's Democrat or Republican. They're all part of the same outside think tanks, such as Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, Bilderberg groups. Basically, these guys are all playing on the same team, at least outside of, the Capitol Hill. But, beyond that, they're all working for the same people, working towards the same goals. So what we see on TV, when we look on CNN, on MSNBC, all of these people taking shots at each other, when in reality, they're actually working together. I mean, does that kind of, make a little sense?
That wouldn't surprise me, man. I've always, since I got started in pro wrestling, started to believe that life in general is a work. Everybody that has a TV show, whether it's dramas or comedies to sports and the news, the whole point is you only make money by people watching it. So you're going to do what it takes to get eyeballs on your show. So, I mean, half the stuff I'm sure we see on the news is a work. They dramatize it, or, they do what they need to do to make sure people are going to watch it.
I mean, we see it on this low level with just these dirt sheet writers. Imagine what they're doing it on the highest levels.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you listen to, and I'm not really going to give my opinion one way or the other, but if you watch the Bills game yesterday, the Buffalo Bills game, when the national anthem started and all the players were kneeling, like the crowd was booing. They were booing. But at the end, all of a sudden we're hearing crowd cheers. And listen, you watch enough Friday Night SmackDown back in the day, you're going to recognize what a fake crowd cheer is. And I 100% believe that CBS pumped in fake cheers. Go back and listen to it if you have it on DVR, Buffalo and Denver, because they were booing heavily before, and I don't know why all of a sudden they would be cheering crazy afterwards.
Yeah, I just haven't checked that out. Or did the Bills play a good game or no?
Oh yeah, they won 2-1. We'll see how this season continues. Looking good so far.
Like one of the big ones that I'm seeing right now is this whole the big healthcare thing going on. I think that's a great big work going on. Honestly, I think that one of the comments that Lindsey Graham made, it might have been him or the other guy that was pushing this new healthcare bill. One of them said something to the effect of, "If this doesn't go through, say hello to single payer socialism healthcare." And that to me is just like he's showing you their hand. That's the end goal. That's what they're going for. The way the Republicans have been fumbling it and screwing it up, I think they're deliberately laying down. I think they're jobbing right now. They're deliberately screwing up to make the single-payer health care look a lot more appealing and more enticing to the American voters.
Well, you're obviously a lot smarter when it comes to this stuff than me, Brandon. So, I mean, I have no idea. The only thing I would wonder is how would that affect the re-elections coming up with the voters?
That is actually an incredibly good question. It really depends on what state you're living in, the districts you represent. I'm just scared that people are letting themselves get worked and do something that sounds good, and then they start seeing like effects down the road when things start collapsing, because that's how usually socialism ends up. Is it sounds great, works great for the first few years, then it just starts a downslide to eventual complete collapse. And there's always two inherent major flaws in that, and it's you got to expect people to run this central planning fairly and justly without corruption, without letting any of that in. And also the other fatal flaw that always wrecks it is you take away that incentive, and without incentive there's no desire to produce or be productive.
Well, the thing is, and again, I don't know much about the healthcare, the laws, the bills, what they're proposing, all this stuff, but you hear about Canada, who has free healthcare from what I understand, but there's always long waits and people are waiting and waiting and waiting, and some of them even come to the US to get their issue taken care of because they're waiting so long in Canada. So I think if we went that route, that would need to be addressed, because if it's free, that's great, but what does that matter if people can't get the help in the time that they need? So I think that would need to be addressed.
Yeah, there was one horror story I read where somebody said they had to wait 6 years for hip replacement surgery. But anyway, wrestling and politics, basically, yeah, it's a great big show. Like we've seen, what was it like around Nixon LBJ era? We saw like the Republicans and the Democrats basically kind of flip flop. One turned heel, one turned baby, kind of.
I'll take your word for it, man.
That was mainly with I want to say it was with Nixon when he tried his Southern strategy, when he started going more towards a conservative, started appealing more towards the Southern. They started with Nixon mainly in his strategy. I mean, I remember it was like Southern strategy or something Southern or something, where they kind of moved the Republicans towards the base that the Democrats were leaving, with guys like when Kennedy came into power and LBJ after him, although Kennedy and LBJ did not like each other. Kennedy was very distrustful of him.
Did you study this stuff in school, or is this something you researched on your own time out of interest? Like, where did you learn all this stuff?
Actually, I happened to stumble across a guy by the name of Bill Cooper, who served in the naval intelligence. He served in Vietnam, and then eventually was in naval intelligence, and saw a bunch of stuff come across his desk that just was like, I can't let this be secret. I have to get this stuff out there. And eventually hosted his own radio show throughout pretty much the entirety of the 90s, and was eventually taken out in 2001.
Cool, man. Yeah, it just seems like you have a grasp on the history and knowledge. It seems like something that interests you.
I mean, it's just one of those things. I don't know why. I just feel so passionate about it, because I think that, if we just left each other alone and followed the Constitution, I think things would be so much better here. And I think it's something worth, fighting and going for.
Yeah, well, this has been my theory, and again, I'm no political expert. I couldn't work for CNN or Fox, but I was having a talk with one of my buddies, and it feels like to me, when you look at the two parties, okay, in the U.S., it's like the Republicans think that everything is great and nothing needs to change, and the Democrats think that everything sucks and everything needs to change. And I just feel like nobody wants to meet in the middle, and if they meet in the middle of that, maybe there'll be some harmony. But again, that's my opinion. I'm no expert.
Oh, definitely. I mean, we kind of have to meet in the middle. I mean, there are some things that definitely need to change, and there are some things that are fine the way they are. It's, the problem is we're going after the wrong ones. It's based on however we're feeling that day, or whatever the media tells us we need to be outraged at. So, yeah, but basically, when it comes to comparing wrestling and politics is, if you could compare it to, I would definitely say like the U.S. territory was kind of usurped and taken over. Well, the exact date I would give that is November 22nd, 1963. Good
show on Hulu.
Yeah, I would definitely say that was when the globalists or those the power behind the throne officially took over the territory, and they've been booking it pretty well ever since.
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at stuff like that. The fact there's a lot of things in history when you actually sit down and examine the official stories. There's holes everywhere. There's plot holes. It doesn't make sense. So there's something we don't know. Was something developed behind the scenes, especially with the Kennedy stuff. There's millions of theories out there. So I don't know, man. It's like I remember having a talk with my brother when we were younger, not too younger. I mean, I was in college, and he was talking about stuff, and somebody started talking about if was the moon landing real or not, and all these conspiracy theories. And my brother was, his question was, how do you know it was real? Were you there? Well, no, it was on TV and stuff. Okay, but a lot of people just hear things, so it's real. Unless you actually witness something or there's legitimate video or evidence or whatever it is, you're taking somebody's word. And whether it's a government, whether it's a book from 50 years ago, it's a history text, something that happened in the Revolutionary War. Can you really be 100% sure that really happened? No, you're just taking somebody's word on it without evidence. So that makes you think about stuff, I think.
There's actually something that the guy just mentioned, Bill Cooper, was very famous for saying, and something I've failed numerous times before, but I try my best to try to stick to it. He always liked to say, read everything, listen to everyone, believe none of it until you can prove it with your own research.
Yeah, or your own eyeballs.
Unfortunately, people just take stuff at face value, or they'll just read a headline and go off that, whereas something that completely disregards the headlines buried like 10 paragraphs in. Another good booking move they made was back on September 11th when they got everybody all riled up wanting to hand over their privacy rights.
See, there's another one. A lot of theories on that. You can find plot holes in the official story. You can find plot holes in the conspiracy theories. It just seems like there's something we don't know with an event like that too, because especially when you sit down and dissect it.
That's one of those ones where you got to look at everything from every angle, whether it's for your side or not. If you find evidence or something that looks like it could be great evidence, and you find something that disproves it, well, you kind of got to get rid of it, even if it helps you, because otherwise it discredits you.
Yeah, my whole deal with that is, I don't know what to believe one way or the other, but the only thing I do know is every footage of any plane crash you've ever seen, there's always wreckage and luggage and stuff like that. But the plane that, crashed in Pennsylvania, there's nothing. And to me, that's odd. And that doesn't really make sense because I don't think it's going to disintegrate. Same thing with the Pentagon. Where's the plane? Where's all that stuff? So that's the stuff that makes me think, like, what is the official story not telling us everything?
Exactly. Cooper even called the official story BS before 9/11 even happened.
How do you do that?
He actually had, he had a broadcast on June of that year. I think it was 28th or the 25th, late June that year, where he said that, talked about how there's an interview going on. He said that as he's recording, there's a CNN interview with bin Laden going on, and he's get on the air saying, wait a minute, so we're after bin Laden. The FBI, CIA, the greatest intelligence apparatus in the world with the biggest budget in the world is after this guy. Can't find him, and CNN could get an interview with him. Trust me, something big is going to go down in the next few weeks. It's not going to be bin Laden. It's going to be the people behind him using him as a tool. And whatever they try to go at, whatever they try to pass on that, don't buy it for 1 second.
So would you call yourself what people stereotype as a conspiracy theorist?
To an extent. I mean, like, I don't blindly believe. I used to when I was kind of naive, but I've kind of settled down on that now. I used to, would blindly believe anything I'd read, and it's like, okay, let's kind of slow it down here. Okay, I can see that happening, but let's go ahead and let's look into it further to make sure this is actually something plausible.
Yeah, I mean, you look at politicians, they lie all the time, so why wouldn't they lie about official stories? That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, if Donald Trump's going to lie about the size of his hands, what else would he lie about, right? Or what anybody else would lie about?
Yep. I don't know, man. It's just another thing. Like, you take official narratives because that's what they're telling you, or is there evidence to prove it? So, I don't know. Interesting. I wonder if we'll ever get the full story on that. Probably not.
I'm hearing that we're actually supposed to be like some sort of expiration on documents regarding the Kennedy assassination are supposed to be able to be made available like this year or next year or something like that. So yeah, basically wrestling, politics are kind of the same thing. It's a show. We've seen Democrats, Republicans turn heel before, turn babyface, switch sides. How many times does Trump flip-flop from Democrat to Republican?
Well, look at McCain. There's a big stink with him in Arizona or whatever, that his entire ads for senator was, I'm going to repeal Obamacare. That's what I guess Arizona elected him for, and now he's against repealing it and he's trying to keep it. So, I mean, there's a flip-flop right there.
Yep, I read somewhere where it was like they when they were running, they were really gung-ho about it when the Democrats were in control of everything, because they knew they wouldn't be able to, they could talk all the bluster they wanted, but they knew that if it actually came to a vote, they wouldn't win, so they could talk all they wanted.
I don't trust any politician.
It's a grift. There is one I do have trust in, and that's Rand Paul, only because he actually backs up his words and actually fights for us. He's done like double-digit hour filibusters before for privacy violation legislation.
Yeah, I don't know much about him. I hate politics. I absolutely hate it.
Let's go. Actually, that's a good one to end it on. Let's go ahead and end it on a big prediction that I have. So we all remember how the NWO angle went down with Bash at the Beach, Hall and Nash, Hogan, Sting, Savage, Luger. I think we might be seeing something like that, similar going on with the healthcare, the Medicare for All bill. And here's what I think is probably going to go down. And we're going to go ahead and let's talk wrestling-wise on this. My prediction for it is, let's pretend that it's going to go down like Bash at the Beach 96 did. In the role of Hall and Nash, I'm going to go ahead and put Bernie Sanders and Nancy Pelosi in those roles. And in the roles for Randy Savage, we'll go ahead and put Rand Paul. For Thomas Massey, let's go ahead and have him be Luger. And we'll have Justin Amash be Sting. So basically how I see it going down is it's going to turn into, it's going to pass, a Medicare for All is going to, my prediction is it's going to pass both houses. And they're going to, but however, Republicans control both houses, and they're going to, or there's not going to be enough to override the veto. There's not going to be enough Democrat support to override a veto should Trump veto it. However, who I think is going to be Hogan and drop the leg and basically kind of screw us all Trump, I think, is going to sign it, drop the leg on Rand, and stick us with it.
Hey, if he knows the wrestling business.
I mean, he is friends with the McMahons. Linda's part of his cabinet.
Yep. That'd be something. You would need a commentator playing the role of Bobby Heenan, though. Whose side is he on? Whose side is he on?
I could definitely see it like, we need this. All right, well, at least we can count on Trump to veto it. We know we're not going to override it. He's coming down the ramp. He's coming down the ramp. Here comes Trump to save us from socialized health care. You go straight to hell, Trump. Straight to hell. But yeah, that's my prediction. I think Trojan Trump is going to be the guy to lead us into socialized health care.
Could be, man. Life's a work.
It's a work, man. And Trump's the biggest worker of them all. He knows how to work. He's a very good worker.
Most people that win elections are.
Like, you can even take a look at this past election. It was very clear. Hillary Clinton was cast as the baby face, Trump as the heel. And even now, it's what they're still trying to push that narrative where it was like, you're both just horrible. You're both just absolutely horrible.
Yeah, well, they both look like heels to me, so who knows?
And most America knows how to use their brain properly. But anyway, thank you for the conversation, man. It was really great talking to you.
No, thanks for having me, man.
Anytime, man. Thank you all for watching. Jeff, you got anything you want to plug?
Just throw me a follow on Twitter if you want, at JeffLane22.
All right, and you can also follow me at BSRider67 on Twitter. Make sure you check out russosbrand.com and all the great personalities and content up there. And I will see you all next week.
This is Vince Russo's The Brand.